Sadness, I have to inform you here today that Taylor's body has been found. They were spotted an alligator with an object in his mouth.
Guys, we can't get any sadder than this. This is the worst that I ever heard.
They hate you. You're gonna die. I don't want to do this.
Sadness, I have to inform you here today that Taylor's body has been found. They were spotted an alligator with an object in his mouth. As the detective got closer, they fired one round to the alligator. The alligator dropped the object that he had in his mouth, and we were able to retrieve Taylor's body. We are sorry that it had to end this way.
On March 29, 2023, a 21-year-old man was arrested for stabbing his 22-year-old wife to death in a very brutal manner. As shocking as that might sound, what he did next is even worse. He picked the 2-year-old son he shared with the deceased and drove to the alligator pond located near their residence, then dumped him there.
You can see the size of the alligator here.
This guy's sick.
And that is the memorial site where this child was found. So there is alligators in this water here in South St. Pete.
This is the chilling story of Pashun Jeffrey and her 2-year-old son. But before we get into the crime, let's talk about the victim. Because at one point, Pashun Jeffrey was full of life and dreams. She was just 20 years old, a young mother trying to build a future for herself and her son. Born and raised in St. Petersburg, Pashun excelled academically, attended Benito Middle School, Boca Ciego High School, graduating as an honor student from Northeast High School. She balanced motherhood and work, taking a job at CVS to provide for Taylor, her 2-year-old son, or Tay-Tay, as his extended family liked to call him. Pashun's love for Thailand was undeniable. In fact, at her graduation, she held her diploma in one hand and cradled baby Taylor in the other, a picture any loving mother would love to see. But that was not the only way she showed her love for baby Taylor. She also FaceTimed her son with every break she got at work, stealing precious moments to hear his laughter while at home. Pashun's love wasn't just reserved for her son. She also cared deeply for her baby daddy, this guy, 21-year-old Mosley. There was only 1 year between the couple, so their love was young and intense. They had met at a time when Pashun was still trying to study, but Mosley had dropped out. So they loved each other, and not long after, they had a baby together. The 2-year-old baby that was later found dead in the jaws of the alligator. But before all that happened, this relationship had a very good picture, because after earning her diploma, Pashun moved into her own apartment, where she had been living for only a few months. During that time, Mosley had also been squatting in the same apartment with her for a few weeks.
Squatting.
She made sure he had food, celebrated his wins, and encouraged his dreams. When his 21st birthday approached, she took it upon herself to make it special, a clear sign that she believed in their future together. Just 19 days earlier, their son had celebrated his own birthday, making this a meaningful time for their little family. However, despite all the love she showered on her boyfriend, no one could ever expect what she got in return. The morning of March 30, 2023, began with unease. Pashun's family had been trying to reach her for their daily FaceTime call, but every call went unanswered. At first, they brushed it off. Maybe she was busy, still resting after last night's celebration. But as the hours passed and silence stretched on, panic set in. Theo Brickhouse Sales, Pashun's great aunt, was the most worried. So she snuck away from her workplace during lunch break and drove to Pashun's apartment, 4th St. Anne. And that was when she saw it. Dark streaks staining the sidewalk outside. Then a trail of blood. She immediately screamed, and with her hands trembling, she picked her phone and called the property manager, who unlocked the door. But nothing could have prepared her for what lay behind that door. Pashun was found on the bathroom, the victim of a horrific knife attack from her boyfriend that left her with over 100 wounds. At one point, Mosley must have lost track and just kept striking with the knife. Minutes later, the police were alerted to the crime scene by the apartment manager. Upon arrival, they discovered clear evidence that Mosley tried to clean up his crime. In the bedroom, they discovered a cleaning bottle under the bed. It had a bloody fingerprint on it, and that fingerprint belonged to Thomas Mosley. But that was not all. There was another clue,
Oh my
a shoe print
goodness.
stained with blood pressed into the tiles. This led the police and everyone to thinking what exactly happened on the 29th. Indeed, after allegedly attacking his girlfriend on the 29th, Mosley tried to escape to his mother's house, a mere 10 minutes from his girlfriend's apartment. He was seen by some eyewitnesses, bleeding from fresh cuts on his arms. The wounds were deep enough to require medical attention, and soon after, he checked himself in to St. Anthony's Hospital, where the police apprehended him and identified that his wounds were consistent with slippage during a knife attack. With all the evidence on ground, the police were convinced that Thomas was responsible for Pashun's tragic death. But one thing was still missing. Talon, the couple's 2-year-old son, was nowhere to be found.
Cute kid.
He wasn't at the crime scene, and there were no signs that he had escaped. Had his father taken him? Was he still alive? No one had the answers. It also didn't help that following his arrest, Mosley refused to talk to the detectives, so they had no leads about the location of the 2-year-old child then. At 5 p.m. on March 30, an Amber Alert was issued for Talon Mosley, and the question on everybody's mouth was, where was the little boy?
Somebody knows something, somebody saw something.
And Passion just
Taylor
a beautiful mom.
loved to be with his family. We missing Taylor. We call him
Tay Tay.
Tay Tay.
Yes, he will answer.
The
to
glam. He answered the glam.
Yeah, he answers to a lot of things.
Sweet baby.
He's very
You know,
smart.
he's always
kid.
calling his mom on his cell phone.
Yeah, always.
He misses his mom. They call each other all the time. She really loved Taylor.
Yeah, we don't
She
know about
always
color.
was there for Taylor. She calls on breaks.
Yep, and
Early in the morning, they FaceTime me early in the morning.
yep. We're without words. You know, we love Passion very much, and we love
Very
Taylor.
much.
So we've lost Passion. So we
Sweet
ask you
baby.
guys to help us to find Taylor and to get him back, please.
A bloodhound from the Manatee County Sheriff's Office was brought in to sniff out any sign of the missing toddler. Dive teams were sent to search the alligator ponds near the family's residence, worried about the worst.
Important things right now is number one, to find Talon and bring him home, and number two, to find out who killed Miss Jeffries. That's our main goal right now. This is all hands on deck. Every detective is working this case.
The police dispatched drones and helicopters, scanning the area, and they even emptied one nearby dumpster to search for clues, but there was still no sign of Talon. On March 31, as the pressure grew, the police offered a $5,000 reward for any information about Talon's location. Officers expanded their search to Del Holmes Park, a large area with trails, a fishing pier, and dense plants. The park was beside Lake Maggiore, a huge 362-acre lake with dark, deep waters. And then came the break no one wanted. That night, at Lake Maggiore, 13 blocks away from the apartment, a horrifying sight stopped officers in their tracks. A local resident had called in a tip. Near the edge of Lake Maggiore, they had spotted an alligator. Its massive jaws clamped around something small. At 9:33 p.m., officers arrived at the shoreline. Flashlights swept over the water's surface. That was when they saw it, a child's body, lifeless, trapped between the teeth of the alligator. Despite
God.
their efforts, retrieving Talon's body from the alligator was no easy task, but eventually, with the help of volunteers and the police, the alligator was eventually killed, and everyone in St. Petersburg bore witness to one of the greatest tragedies of their lives, as they retrieved the lifeless body of baby Talon from the mouth of the dead alligator.
Horrible.
The news was confirmed by St. Petersburg Police Chief Anthony Holloway at a press conference, where he said,
We didn't want to find him this way, but at least we can bring some closure to that family now.
even the police chief felt the grief. But for Talon's family, who were most affected by this loss, closure was an impossible thing.
Family of both Talon Mosley and Passion Jeffrey are grieving tonight after Talon was found dead.
It is my condolences going out to the family and to his loved ones. We are sorry that it had to end this way.
St. Pete Police Chief Anthony Holloway said detectives saw an alligator with an object in its mouth at Del Holmes Park. That's across town from the apartment where Jeffrey was to death.
They fired one round to the alligator. The alligator dropped the object that he had in his mouth, and we were able to retrieve Talon's body intact.
Taylon's father, Thomas Mosley, is charged with 2 counts of first-degree
Sicko.
murder for both Taylon and Passion's deaths.
We didn't want to find him this way, but at least we can bring some closure to that family now.
Earlier today, that family spoke about mother and son.
He's always calling his mom on his cell phone.
Yep, always.
He misses his mom. They call each other all the time. She really loved Taylor.
Police don't know how Taylon got to the lake or the cause of death for the toddler.
In fact, in a TV interview, Brick House Sales Pashoon's great aunt admitted what haunted her most, and shockingly, it was not the crime itself nor the evidence. It was the suffering of the victims and her family members. She said,
My biggest worry was that how they suffered.
Oh my God.
And when I close my eyes at night, that's all I see was the suffering of both of them.
the pain in her voice could be heard from that video, but after the medical report for the death of baby Taylon was released, everything the family thought they knew about the death of baby Taylon changed. The medical examiner for the county revealed that Taylon's passing wasn't caused by the alligator, but by another culprit. Indeed, after allegedly attacking Pashoon
Sick.
more than 100 times, Mosley didn't
Never.
stop there. He drove to Lake Maggiore, where he dropped the toddler in the water and left him there. Then the alligator in the pond found his body and tried to swallow him. But in a small mercy, the alligator had not swallowed Taylor. He was in its jaws and not breathing. So authorities acted quickly, killing the hungry predator before it could destroy what was left of Taylon's body. With the 2 dead bodies recovered and strong evidence linking Mosley to the crime, including his phone records which showed he was at the lake before going to his mother's place, a grand jury indicted Mosley on 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was booked into the Pinellas County Jail without bond and ordered not to have any contact with Taylon nor Passion's families. Meanwhile, outside their apartment, a makeshift memorial grew. Friends, neighbors, and strangers left candles, stuffed animals, and handwritten notes, a reminder that Pashoon and Taylon were loved and that they mattered. But grief soon turned into frustration, and then outrage, when the family faced an unexpected obstacle. For the family, burying Taylon should have been a simple process. But under Florida law, the next of kin had control over his remains.
What?
That meant his father, the very man accused of killing
This
him,
idiot.
had to give permission for the funeral. When the Pinellas Pasco Medical Examiner's Office realized this, they were stunned. The law had a loophole. While a husband accused of murder was exempt from making burial decisions for his wife, it didn't apply to children or other family members, even in murder cases. A medical examiner's representative had to visit Mosley in jail, asking for his approval so the burial rites could continue. But the response Mosley gave was one that shocked everyone who was present at the scene. As if to spite the family of the deceased, Mosley gave a frustrating reply and said that he had no son. State lawmakers immediately took action. Senator Darrell Rouson vowed to close the gap in the law, ensuring that no grieving family would have to seek permission from an alleged killer just to
Good.
lay their loved one to rest. On April 7, 2023, a week after the tragic incident took place, the community gathered at First Baptist
Sad.
Church of St. Petersburg for the funeral of Pashoon Jeffrey and Taylon Mosley. Supporters raised nearly $44,000 in only 6 days to help assist the family with funeral and burial expenses. Although the money was initially raised to help in the search for Taylon, it was later used in his funeral preparations. In a GoFundMe update, the family thanked supporters for their donations, prayers, and positive thoughts. Inside the church, Taylon lay in a small, Toy Story-themed casket,
So
a
sad.
heartbreaking reminder of just how young he was.
Hours ago at the First Baptist Church of St. Petersburg, everyone from friends and family to city leaders came out to celebrate the lives of Passion Jeffrey and Taylon Mosley.
The mother and 2-year-old were killed last week. The little boy's body was later found in the jaws of an alligator. Tonight, little Taylon's father is charged in the murders. 10 Tampa Bay's Miranda Parnell was at the service this afternoon and helps us learn a little more about this mother and son from the people who knew them best.
We all know the gruesome details of this tragedy, but this celebration of life was about light, the light that Passion Jeffrey and little Taylon would bring to all of their family and friends, loved ones who fully expect to see them again.
You are the light in an otherwise darkened room. We gather, God, because we know that for the hurt that we're feeling, that your hands are able to heal.
a mother's snow white casket next to a vibrant Toy Story version made for her son.
Loved ones spoke of Pashun's kindness, her love for her son, and the bright future she was building before it was stolen from her. They spoke of Taylon's joyful spirit, his laughter, and the way he lit up every room he entered.
Because of who you are.
Leaning on prayer, leaning on faith, leaning on each other as they remembered 20-year-old Passion Jeffrey, who adored her son, cooking and eating crabs, along with 2-year-old little Taylon, who gave tiny kisses and loved to learn.
And on Good Friday, we ask, God, give goodness for our grief, give goodness for our weakness, give goodness for our mourning.
And as this family misses Taylon's smile and Passion's love for spending time with people she cared about,
those big brown eyes were always the same. Always the same.
They are holding on to their faith that gives them comfort in knowing they'll meet again.
His eye is on the sparrow.
I know you're at a better place, both of y'all. I'll see you again one day.
There were no answers that could make sense of what happened, and no words to ease the pain. Only the knowledge that mother and son were together in life and in death. The community had said their goodbyes to the deceased, but the fight for justice had just begun. Mosley was charged to court, and his first court appearance was unusual. He appeared over the phone from his hospital bed. Judge Patrice Moore, the judge in charge of his case, tried to communicate with him, but the conversation was strained. Then came another twist. Mosley told the court that he was mentally impaired. He confessed that he had attempted suicide 3 times since 2019, and that the third time was on his birthday in 2023, right before he was arrested for the murders. So for the next 6 months, Mosley remained under psychiatric care. Doctors prescribed antipsychotic medication for his hallucinations, as well as medication for anxiety and depression. But the prosecutors handling the case wouldn't hear it. They were pursuing the death penalty and would stop at nothing to get it.
To home, the man accused of killing his 2-year-old son and stabbing the child's mother to death is now headed to a state psychiatric hospital. A judge just ruled Thomas Mosley incompetent to stand trial. Fox 13's Kaylee Tracy explains what this means for the case moving forward.
As Passion Jeffrey and Taylon Mosley's family sat in the courtroom Wednesday, Thomas Mosley appeared before a judge.
And I'll find that Mr. Mosley is not competent to proceed. I'll find that he is restorable.
Judge Susan St. John agreed with 2 court-appointed doctors who evaluated Mosley. They say the state psychiatric hospital is the best place for him right now. Mosley is accused of stabbing Jeffrey more than 100 times in her St. Pete home in March and killing their 2-year-old son, Taylon. His body was found in a lake. Police say evidence puts Mosley at both scenes.
Even attorneys not related to the case had to voice out. Anthony Rickman, one attorney in the area who was not connected to the case at all, came on TV to lend his voice. He said,
"This is not a case where he's walking free. He's not a case where because he's incompetent today doesn't mean he won't be tried in the future. This is a case where, as we sit right now, he's found to be incompetent, and as a result, they need to send him to the state hospital to restore that competence."
Rickman, a defense attorney not affiliated with the case, says there's a difference between competency and insanity.
Right now, he's not saying, hey, I was insane at the time of the offense. We're talking about, as it stands right now, he's not competent to stand trial. And that's different than somebody being insane or raising that insanity defense.
There will be another court date in April to see if Mosley is competent.
But Mosley's mental state wasn't the only obstacle the prosecutors faced. There was more to unravel. His defense attorney tried to play smart by keeping his medical records out of the court, claiming that it had nothing to do with the case on ground, but there was a counter-argument from the prosecutors. Based on how Pashun Jeffrey was killed, the medical records had to be released to provide information on how severe Mosley's injuries were, how the injuries had to be treated at the hospital, and the connection of those injuries to Pashun's death. But it wasn't only Mosley's medical records that were requested in court. The prosecutors still had more things to unravel. They played police body cam footage of Pashun's mother speaking to officers after her daughter's body was found. She claimed that everyone, including Mosley, smoked marijuana at his birthday party, the same day he landed in the hospital and just a day before Pashun's death.
Yesterday was our baby daddy's birthday, Thomas. It was his birthday.
Do you know if they were drinking or anything?
I just know they were smoking.
Smoking weed?
Yeah, because I smoked with him yesterday, and while he opened up his gifts, and they were sitting there on the couch.
The defense pushed back, arguing that the footage had nothing to do with the state's subpoena. But the prosecutors insisted that it was relevant, since the toxicology report could reveal more than just marijuana. Was Mosley under the influence of something else before or during the murders? That's what they intended to find out. Finally, in January 2024, another evaluation was carried out by Dr. Teresa Ashaman Jones, and Mosley was deemed competent to stand trial. At every court appearance, Jeffrey and Taylon's loved ones filled the room, wearing shirts printed with their smiling faces. They sat in silent grief as Mosley remained emotionless, at times even playing tic-tac-toe with his attorney. Would the court deliver the justice they so desperately sought? Or would the criminal walk free, leaving their loved ones with nothing but unanswered questions? Let us know what you think about this story in the comments section below.
They hate you. You're gonna die. I don't want to do this.